Everyone, today we're going to be working on our geometry lesson 3, which is classifying triangles. So previously we learned all about angles and points and rays and line segments, and we learned about specific kinds of angles and also perpendicular and parallel lines. And so if we combine different angles and different lines together, we will get shapes. And the first kind of shape is a three-sided shape, which we all know is a triangle. Tri means three. And so there are a couple different ways that we can classify these shapes, okay, these triangles. The first way we're going to talk about classifying triangles is by their angles. So if you remember from our previous lesson, we have acute angles, obtuse angles, and right angles, and we have straight angles, but those can't make triangles. So you'll notice here that each of these triangles is actually named after an angle. And so this here would be called or classified as an acute triangle. And so an acute triangle means that all the angles are less than 90 degrees. Okay. And then this one here is an obtuse triangle. It only has one angle that is greater than 90 degrees, and we'll talk about that in a second, but that's actually, it's only possible for a triangle to have one angle that's greater than 90 degrees. And then this triangle here is a right triangle. It has one right angle, and if we remember from before, this little square in the corner here is a symbol that lets us know that it is a right angle. Same thing, a triangle could only have one right angle. Okay, so one right angle, one obtuse angle, however, can have all acute angles. And the reason for this is because of the little note I have down here. The sum of all the angles in a triangle will always measure 180 degrees. And so if you have an angle that measures more than 90 degrees, 90 is half of 180. And so if you have an angle that's more than half, you can't have the other angle also be more than half. That'd be impossible. Same thing with the right angle. If you have one angle that is, 90 degrees, that only leaves 90 degrees for the other two angles to share between them. With the acute triangles, though, all the angles have to be acute or smaller than 90 degrees because, kind of like what we said before, the three angles have to share that 180 degrees in some way. And so this is the only one where all the angles will be classified the same. So obtuse triangles will have one obtuse angle, and then the other two will be acute. Right angles will have one right angle, and then the other two will also be acute. So that's classifying them by their angles. Pretty easy to remember as long as you can remember, the names of the angles. The other way that we can classify a triangle is by its sides. And so these names can be a little tricky. We'll try to figure out a way to remember them. The first one we'll talk about is an equilateral triangle. An equilateral triangle just means that all the sides are congruent. Congruent is just another word for same. So that means that all the sides are the same length. Okay, and then you'll notice here in this diagram, there's these little lines or these little tick marks on the sides of the triangles. These are little symbols to let you know, because you might not have something to actually measure the length of the sides with. So these will let you know that the sides are all the same length. So this has one line, this has one line, this has one line. So these sides are all the same length. And that's what the little tick marks mean. The next one we have is isosceles. Okay, and this is, a tricky word for some folks to say. That means that it has two sides that are congruent, or two sides that are the same length. Okay, and again, we have our little tick marks up here, and you might notice that on this one, this side and this side only has one. So that means that these sides are the same length. And then the bottom, this is called a base. This one has two, and so that means that it is a different length than these sides, okay, because it doesn't have the same number of tick marks or lines going through it. So isosceles only has two sides that are the same. And the last one we have is scalene. Okay, scalene has no sides that are the same, or no sides that are congruent. And so that's why you notice here, this side has 1 tick mark, this side has 2 tick marks, and then this side has 3. And that's because they are all different lengths. Okay, so these are the ones that typically, if you forget, the names of these, it's classifying them by their sides. But an easy way to remember equilateral, the word equals kind of in there. So equilateral means it has all equal sides. Isosceles, it's a funny word to say. I know it has more than, I know it has the 3 S's. But I like to think that it has the 2 S's near each other, and so the 2 S's kind of are like the 2 sides that are the same. And then scalene is just kind of, if someone figures out a way to remember scalene, please let me know. I still haven't quite figured it out yet. And so we can classify triangles by their sides and their angles. And we can actually describe triangles using both of those methods, okay? So you can describe a triangle by its sides and its angles together. So let's start off with this triangle here. How would we describe this triangle? Well, first, it has those lines, those tick marks, letting us know that all the sides are the same. So first, we could say that this triangle is equilateral, okay? Equilateral. But equilateral, there we go. But now let's take a look at angles, okay? This one's obviously less than 90 degrees, because remember that little trick, if you can make an L, if you can make an L with it, it's 90 degrees, right? And this is definitely smaller than my L. So this is less than 90 degrees, that would be an acute angle. And so would this one. And looks like that one's going to be less than 90 degrees also. So because it has 3 angles that are all less than 90 degrees, we can also say that it is acute. It is an acute equilateral triangle. And I'll give you guys a little hint. Every equilateral triangle is going to be acute because in order for the sides to all be the same length, the angles all have to be the same size. And so that means that it will they'll always be acute angles. They have to, in order to be the same, have the same size. So all equilateral triangles are also acute. How about this one? So here, okay, we've got a lot of, little symbols to help us out. We've got the 2 lines here that tell us that these 2 sides are the same length. Okay, but this side is not marked. So we know that this side is not the same length as the other sides. So this one would be isosceles. Isosceles. Okay. And then as far as the angles go, okay, this is obviously an acute angle, got an acute angle here, but we've got our handy dandy little square in the corner here that lets us know that this is a right angle. And so because it has one right angle, we can also classify it as a right triangle. So we would say that this is a right isosceles or an isosceles right triangle. So we classified it by its sides and by its angle. And one more, okay, we've got this massive triangle here. There's no marks. Okay, so when there's no marks, you can, sometimes they might not mark it, but you can see just by looking, this line is huge, this one's pretty small, and then this line here is in the middle. So even if there's, don't always take the marks for granted, you do need to, look at the triangles and not just the tick marks. But you can very easily tell on this one here that these are all different lengths. So then we would say that this one is scalene. There's no indicator that there's a right angle. None of these look like right angles. However, this is definitely an acute angle. This is a super small acute angle. But this one here, okay, if I were to make an L at the top, like that, okay, that's my kind of like my little way of helping me gauge, you know, how close it is to a right angle. This goes past that. Okay, this goes way past that. So this is an obtuse angle. Okay, it's really big obtuse angle. So because it has at least one obtuse angle, we are going to classify this as an obtuse triangle. So this is an obtuse scalene triangle. It has one, you know, huge angle, and all the sides are different lengths. All right, so that's how we classify triangles. Again, we can classify them by their sides and also by the angles that they have. For your assignment today, Khan Academy lesson X.3 is the main one. But if you want some extra practice, X.1 and X.2, it breaks down classifying triangles by their sides and their angles, and then X3 just puts them all together. So that is it for today. All right, and next time we will talk about polygons. So see you later. Bye.